Philball.
Hello, this is me, Andy Peters. Welcome to Philball Weekly. A lot to get through this week. We've got a whole new setup, new clubs, new everything. And we're just going to go, but we have so much to get through that we're going to rattle through it as quickly as possible. Philball, of course, has moved to the UK. We've got 10 teams, one league, a lot of games, 2 new competitions. We'll discuss that as the season progresses. But for now, we're just going to discuss the managers and what they have, their pros, cons, all that sort of stuff. We're going to start with Pablo. Pablo returning to Philball after a number of years absent and in a role more familiar to everybody else, really, with managers. Pablo is taking over Arsenal with Brighton as his reserve team. Arsenal, very good side, strong starting 11. And Brighton not really bringing much to the party, but they do have a couple of players who might surprise us. For Arsenal, their weaknesses, of course, are as ever that centre back. I think he might be looking for a replacement in there, maybe an upgrade. And for me, left wing. Strikers, they're sorted. I mean, Lacazette, Aubameyang, very good players. Midfield, Xhaka, Odegaard, Emil Rowe. They've got depth throughout the team. What they don't have really is a real standout centre half. And I think left wing, we've got Pepe on the right. There's a lot of pace down there. They've got strong fullbacks who would like to attack down the flanks. They need a winger, I think. I mean, it depends on which system he uses. Pablo may, of course, end up going with a more narrow system, in which case they're grand. Next up is Keith. He's managing Chelsea as his primary team. They don't really have any weaknesses. It's Chelsea. Up front, they may struggle a little bit. They've got Werner, they've got Giroud, of course, and Tammy Abraham, who may have a lot to say this season. But it's compared to the rest of the team, it's not. The rest of the team is unbelievable. Particularly that midfield, Kante, Kovacic, 2 very good players, and then just depth throughout. But the real star of the entire team, and possibly the league this season, if every other season that we've done Philball is to be any guide, Kante. Kante, of course, able to do everything in Philball. He scores goals, he creates chances, he runs with the ball, he tackles, he wins possession. He's an unbelievable presence in the midfield, and he will once again, wouldn't imagine, be the star of Philball. Next up is Schemy and Schemy's Everton team. Everton, of course, really, they have a few key areas that they're going to struggle to fill. It's Everton and West Brom. Really, West Brom aren't really bringing anything to the table. Their squad is quite poor, comparatively speaking, with the rest of the league. But Everton have possibly need a right back and possibly need a striker, because all they've got up front is Calvert-Lewin. They've got a lot of quality down the flanks. Bernard, they've got a lot of quality in the midfield. Allen is fantastic in Philball, but what they don't really have is a striker behind Calvert-Lewin, and Calvert-Lewin is an unproven prospect in Philball. He hasn't really been given an opportunity at any stage to show what he can do. Next, their star player, I think, is going to be James Rodriguez. He's really good, a classic Philball player. He can play anywhere, creates chances, he goes by people. He's not a crosser off the ball, so it'll be interesting to see just how good they can be with that. For Calvert-Lewin, I don't know whether that matches up. We'll move on to Leeds. Leeds United is Columbus' team. Columbus is going to struggle. I think his squad is Leeds and Fulham, 2 of the poorest squads in the game. Leeds tactically are very strong. They're fast. They're real classic Philball players. Underrated as far as FIFA and player rating stats and stuff go. But actually, they're fast. They're energetic. They create chances. They're one of the few teams that actually cross the ball. And up front, they've got one of those players who does everything. Bamford. He can create chances. He can score goals. but I mean, it's mostly he's a focal point for the team, and that's something that a lot of other teams will find out this season is key to what they can do. Their other key player, I think, is Calvin Phillips. He wins the ball, he creates chances, he's mobile, but it's mostly just defensive cover that I think it's going to be hard for teams to really get at that midfield and get at that weak defence that Leeds have. And Leeds again, like Dallas, like they've only got Bamford. If he gets injured, they are affected. So I wouldn't be surprised if during this window Colombo looks for a striker to replace him. I mean, there is the vastly underrated Mitrovic to come in, who could do a job, and does a lot of the same stuff that Bamford does at a slightly lower level. Next up is Leicester City, and that's Phil Martin, handsome Phil. They're really looking at the squad. They need a left back, they probably need a striker. All they've got up front is Vardy now, and his reserves are Crystal Palace. So there's Etsy, there's Easy even, there's Zaha to come in, and one would imagine probably a couple of centre backs, the likes of Van Aanholt may come in as there to solve that left back problem. Justin is fine, but they might need somebody who's actually left foot to get the ball in to Vardy. Vardy, of course, key player. The team are going to rely heavily on him. And then there's quite the drop down to replace Batshuayi, and Iheanacho are going to be really called into play. They've also got Barnes, Ndidi, Tielemans. They've got quality throughout that midfield, but it's a case of who do they keep, who do they lose, how's this squad going to look when the season starts. Slightly different, I would imagine. Next up is Liverpool. Liverpool, of course, are going to be managed by Jemba. No weaknesses. I mean, the issue they've had in pre-season is that the players that they have and want to use aren't actually weren't featured in the default settings. Van Dijk, we haven't seen him yet. We know what he's capable of. Matip, another player who we haven't seen, but we know is much better than the players that we have seen for them. They've also got Gomez. They've got depth at the centre backs. They've got the best fullbacks in the league. They've probably got one of the strongest midfielders: Vingelam, Thiago, Keita, Milner, Henderson, like Fabinho. They've got depth in that middle. Up front, they may struggle. They have Firmino, they have Salah, and they have Mane. Salah and Mane and Firmino have all struggled really to make an impression during Philball, but now they're at Liverpool. Will they be able to? He's also got that Burnley team and Woods to come in, more real focal point for a strike force. He's got options, is what I'm saying. But yeah, they probably do need a bit of depth on either the flanks or through the middle in that front three, because all they've got are that front three. Then it's quite a drop off for Origi, even Jota to get into that team. Next up is Dick and his Man City team. He's got Man City and Aston Villa, so he's got Grealish, he's got Wesley, he's got McGinn to come into an already incredibly strong Man City side. Again, they've got no weaknesses. They've got De Bruyne, probably the real star of Philball's midfield. It's between De Bruyne and probably Kante as the real creative forces in Philball. There's not a lot to say. They just don't have any weaknesses. They should really dominate Philball this season, and if they don't, I think Dick should be ashamed of himself. Next up is Spurs, and that's Chuck's team. Really, they need a bit of depth. They don't have any tactical flexibility with the squad that they have. They've got Kane, nothing else as far as strikers go. Son can probably do a job up there, but I don't know whether he will be called in to do that. But the rest of the team are very strong. They've got Davies on the left, they've got Aurier on the right, they've got yeah, they've got Ndombele, who has shown over previous Philball seasons that he's very, very good at Philball. They've got that strong back line. Alderweireld is still there, which is going to be key for them, I think. Loris might be a weakness in goal, but who knows how the transfer window will pan out for this Spurs team. We'll move on now to Def and West Ham. West Ham, of course, are a very strong team, surprisingly strong performances. They've got Declan Rice, they've got Antonio, they've got Souček, they've got players who can know. They've also got a few players who are slightly better than their stats would rely. They've got that left back whose name escapes me, I probably should have written down. They've got Cresswell. They've got players who can do jobs for them, and it's going to be interesting to see how that works out and pans out during the course of this season. And then they've of course got Danny Ings to come in from that Southampton side. So Danny Ings and Antonio up front will be really hard to contain for everybody else in the league. Next up is Wolves, and that will be Zoran, who has chosen Wolves rather than Man United. Man United are his reserve team, and that Man United reserve team have a lot of players who one would imagine will feature quite strongly in this side. Fernandes, of course, being primary among them. Fernandes is one of the strongest creative forces within Philball. They've got Fernandes, they've got Pogba, they've got Rashford, of course, they've got Cavani to come into an already quite strong Wolves team with Cody and Bowley and Raul Jimenez. Raul Jimenez, of course, is an upgrade on Cavani. He's mobile, he's creative, and he can do the same stuff that Cavani can do and will be expected to do in that Man United side. So it will be interesting to see how Man United and Wolves squads mesh. They've also got Traore, and Funadam is always fun. But yeah, so we're going to finish off the friendlies today, see how the remaining teams do. So that's Chelsea will be playing. We'll see Everton, I think, are likely to feature today, and of course Leeds, who will be playing Fulham, and that should be at 1 o'clock today. So yeah, it's exciting, it's interesting, and hopefully we'll see some stuff happening within Philball.